Today we're going to talk about the seam ripper. Now, I was taught in school to use one of these like most of you, but I didn't figure out until much later that professionals don't actually use these. It wasn't until I got my first job at David's Bridal working in alterations that I figured out what the pros really use. It was my first day on the job and my manager handed me one of these, a razor blade. Today I'm going to show you how to use one of these and why it's my preferred tool over a seam ripper. If you try to make the switch to one of these, it might be uncomfortable at first. It definitely doesn't feel as natural as using a seam ripper does, especially if that's how you've learned to do it in the past. When I started my job at David's Bridal, my manager told me I was not allowed to use a seam ripper and I hated it. But after time, I got much better at it and now this is the only thing I use. Okay, so how do these work? You can buy them in a giant pack like this. This is just a container that I use, but it'll come in just like a little plastic container. And it comes with hundreds of them. I think you can buy them from Amazon or the hardware store even. And it comes with so many that you'll never know what to do with them. So when you first get it, you'll have to remove the protective wrapping on it. And then you're ready to go. Instead of picking at the stitches like this, like we normally do with the seam ripper, we're gonna use the trusty razor blade. So I'm gonna take the seam from the inside and pull it apart so that I can see the stitches, and then just lightly press the razor. If you apply some pressure as you pull the stitches, it'll start to come apart like that. Now all that's left to do is pull out the threads. And I took that stitch apart in less than 5 seconds. You can also use it on seams like this. So this technique is a little different. You're gonna slide it under and it takes it apart just like that. So one big disclaimer about using these is that they are really, really sharp. So you have to be careful, not only that you're not gonna slice your own skin open, but you're not gonna slice open the fabric when you're trying to take out the stitches. So rule number one is be very, very careful when you're first learning. Most of the times that I've hurt myself with one of these is when the razor was too dull. We tend to push with a lot more pressure when it's dull, and that causes you to make mistakes, either cutting the fabric or cutting yourself. So I think that's probably the main reason why they don't teach you to use one of these in school, because yeah, you can definitely hurt yourself with it. I've sliced my fingers so many times. I've gotten blood on quite a few wedding gowns. Thankfully there's blood remover for that. I've also cut holes in fabric because I wasn't being careful. So definitely be very careful when you're using one of these, especially at first. It takes some getting used to, it takes some learning. So maybe practice on some fabric swatches first before you really get going at it, and always remember that you are working with an open blade, so it's definitely going to be sharper and stronger than the seam ripper that you're used to. But hopefully once you get the hang of it, you'll never go back. There are times when I do still use a seam ripper, and that would be mainly when I'm working with super delicate fabrics that I'm afraid of ruining. So that would be fabric like tulle or organza, because those ones are really delicate and really can get sliced pretty easily by the razor blade. But I found that other fabrics, like, you know, this is a linen rayon blend fabric and it is much stronger than the razor, so it would take a lot to cut through it. Like you can see I'm rubbing against it right now and it's not doing anything. So I'm a little bit less afraid of damaging a fabric like this, but a tulle fabric, this would definitely slice it open. So that's pretty much the only time that I use one of these, but other than that, I don't need it. I hope you found this video useful, and let me know if you try out using the razor blade and how it goes. Be careful out there.